Okay, today we're going to talk about simplifying algebraic fractions. Please make sure that you take out a sheet of loose leaf paper if you chose not to print out these notes. So to simplify an algebraic fraction, what we're going to do is factor the numerator, which is your top. Then we're going to factor the denominator, which is the bottom. And then we're going to reduce anything from the top with anything from the bottom. Very important, you want to put a big star here. If the factors are reversed with a minus, they reduce to a -1. So if you are left with x minus 2 over 2 minus x, they reduce to -1. So if we look at the first example, if it says to simplify, we're going to start with the top. What do you notice about a 5x and a 10? Hopefully, you realize that 5 goes into both. It's a GCF, greatest common factor. If I look at the bottom, I notice that both of these terms are perfect squares. So this factors into a dots problem, difference of two squares. Once I have factored the top and the bottom, I look for anything that's the same. This is the same as this, so they reduce to a 1. So I am left with a 5 on the top and an x plus 2 on the bottom. That is simplified. If I look at example number 2, to simplify, the first thing I'm going to do is factor the top, the numerator. This is my AM method, so I'm looking for two numbers that add to 2 and multiply to -15. If you need to, you can write the -15 off to the side, list the factors. One of them has to be negative because this here is negative, and here, that's going to add to 2, so it becomes x minus 3 and x plus 5. If I look at the denominator, the bottom, I notice that both of those terms are perfect squares. So that tells me it factors to x plus 3 and x minus 3. Now I look, is there anything the same on the top and the bottom? This and this reduce to 1s, so I am left with an x plus 5 on the top and an x plus 3 on the bottom. That is my answer. I cannot reduce the x's because they're stuck together with a plus sign. If we look at number 3, again, if I factor the top because I want to simplify this problem, I notice both of those terms are divisible by 6. So it factors to 6 and x minus 3. The bottom, both of those terms are perfect squares. So be very careful. It's the difference of two squares. Since the number is in front, the number has to stay in front. So plus x and minus x. Now if I go to reduce, if I look, this and this are backwards with a minus. So when I reduce them, I put a -1 on the top and a 1 on the bottom. When they're reversed with a minus, it reduces to -1. So now I have a -6 on top and a 3 plus x on the bottom. Once again, I cannot reduce this with this, the 3 and the 6, because the 3 is connected to the x with a plus sign. If I look at the next example, on the top, I can factor out a 4. It's a greatest common factor. On the bottom, I can factor out a 3. Now, if I notice these terms, they are reversed, but they're reversed with a plus. So when I cross them out, they reduce to 1s. So this reduces to 4/3. And I'll show you quickly why that happens. If I take 3 plus 5, if I call this x and y, I get 8. If I flip the order, 5 plus 3, I still get 8. So when we have the minus, if I do 3 minus 5, again, pretend this is x and y, I'm going to get -2. And if I flip them, 5 minus 3, I get +2. That is why it's only a negative when it's reversed with a minus sign. Last example, if I look at the top, I notice that those are both perfect squares. So again, the number is in front, so it becomes 3 plus x. and 3 minus x. If I look at the bottom, the first thing that I notice there is that all of these terms are divisible by 2. So this now becomes 5x squared minus 14x minus 3. Now, if I want to factor what's left in parentheses here, first thing I'm going to do is write down the 2 because we never want to throw away a factor. To factor this, because there's a number in front of the x squared, I do the headphone method. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Factors of negative 15 that add to negative 14 are 1 and negative 15. If you like to list all the factors, technically 3 and 5 also, and one of those would be negative. So once I know that these are my factors, I'm going to do this over here. I'm going to expand the middle term, the negative 14, with those factors. So we're going to have a 1x and a minus 15x. Then because I have 4 terms, it's factor by grouping. So I can take an x out of this side, 5x plus 1. I have to have 5x plus 1 on this side. So on the right side, I pulled out a negative 3 as my greatest common factor. So I'm left with x minus 3 and 5x plus 1. So those go down here, x minus 3, 5x plus 1. And now when I go to reduce, I notice this and this, they're backwards. So this is a 1, this is a negative 1 because they're backwards with a minus. So on top, I have a negative 3 plus x. And on the bottom, if I multiply 2 times 1 times this, I have 2 times 5x plus 1. You could technically, if you wanted to, distribute the negative in and distribute the 2 in. You do not have to. Please make sure you write down any questions that you have and either email me or ask me next time you see me in class.